Hello, I'm Olivia Wayne and welcome to Live in the Moment. This is a series dedicated to living life to the fullest. That's not always easy, especially after the year 2020 threw up, but there is always something we can do or something we can try to shift our mindset and outlook to help remember that life is good and living it to the fullest is something within our control. I've invited a number of brilliant, motivated, inspiring people to try to ascertain and learn what they do to keep themselves happy, positive, and living in the moment. Now, I feel really excited and grateful to have my guest today because he is probably the busiest man on the planet. But one thing you consistently read about him is that he always does an interview, whether it's for a giant media outlet or an unknown YouTuber. And for that, I am thrilled. Eddie Hearn. He is boxing. He is the ultimate salesman, was blessed with the gift of the gab, and radiates positivity, great energy, and someone who most definitely lives in the moment. His career is fascinating, his work ethic is unparalleled, and the way he has dominated and transformed boxing is remarkable, yet seemingly unsurprising, given his motivation, determination, and relentless hustle. A published author, a real life manifester, from selling double glazing in Romford at 15 years old to promoting his first world title fight at 32, and in 2018 signing boxing's first $1 billion deal. Eddie Hearn,
Oh,
what?
blimey. I
How
I
the
I'd
hell am
like
I?
I'd like to not do any podcast. Can you just keep going? This is great. When you talk about feeling good, how do you feel good? You can just keep doing more of that, to be honest with you. Yeah, enjoyed
But
it.
when you do write an intro or something for someone and you read about them, it is such an amazing way to be like, whoa, I hope this person knows what they've done.
Yeah, I mean, I think that part of I've obviously through lockdown had the blessing of doing a lot of these podcasts, and I've got one as well for BBC, and I spoke to a lot of interesting people, and the common theme was no one is really sitting back going, oh, I can't believe I did that, or wow, I've cracked it, or we're on top of the game, we're unbelievable. It's always, you know, probably a lack of feeling of fulfillment, which can sometimes be dangerous and can sometimes, you have to be a little bit careful. But I think it's Frank Lampard who said, he said, when I won the Champions League, I stood up with a trophy and I didn't feel numb, but I didn't feel like I was complete. I always felt that if I won the Champions League, I would think I've cracked it. What else can you do? But I just felt that, and that's because he's a competitor, and
Mm.
that's because you love to win, you love to push yourself. So you have to be a little bit careful because where does it end? At what point?
For you, where does it ever end? I mean, because you've literally achieved the greatest heights and feats in your career, it seems, and then you just do something else.
Hmm. Well,
So
you have
where
to
does
keep,
it
yeah, you have to keep evolving, but you have to love what you do. It goes back to having a passion and a drive that gives you. When people talk about a relentless work ethic, that can be within you. You can be a grafter. But the reality is, if you don't have a passion for what you do, if you don't have a love and a zest and that energy that you feel, it's like selling. I'm a salesman, and when you're selling something you believe in, when you sell something you're passionate about, it's a transfer of emotions between myself and a fight fan, or myself and a pay-per-view customer, or myself and a fighter, or a broadcaster, or a sponsor. All these different people. So I think it's a lot easier when you have that energy. But where it ends for me, I don't know. I mean, my dad's 71. I was in the office with him all day today. He's supposed to be stepping back a little bit, but he loves it, and I'm not sure I want to be 71 doing that. I'd probably rather the exit where, you can have that moment on the beach, with a nice glass of champagne and think, oh, it's
Whoa,
over.
whoa, whoa.
But, yeah,
I've
but
heard you say this before on another podcast, it's a
yeah,
beach moment, but I just don't buy it because ultimately, someone like you and seemingly your dad, and I don't want to just lump you two together, you're your own people, but I feel like you've brought him up already, and I feel like that he's a common theme in your
mm.
kind of chat. But um, does that not keep you work, keeps you alive, keeps you hungry, keeps
Yeah,
you living?
I
Take
think
that away and you'd be a bit
true.
flat
Yeah,
probably.
true. I think so. And it's just what kind of work, I mean, I work in boxing, which is you have to sleep with one eye open. It's not, he,
Even now, still for
yeah,
you.
yeah, because you don't want to be beaten. You don't want to be overtaken. So I've never been the type to, I'm actually, it will surprise people to know that I'm actually quite pessimistic in business but I think it's like a subconscious thing where I keep myself in check. So, I might do a major deal, but say, yeah, but will the fight actually happen? Like it's just, I'm always like checking I don't know why I do it, but
But wait, do you require people to boost you up, or it's not you don't voice it
not really. No,
externally?
no, not really. Just I like to sort of manage expectation and manage disappointment because in the boxing business, especially at the moment with COVID, you are waking up to bad news every day, and that's
Yeah.
what's quite depressing about boxing in general. Is you can create a show, and then a week out, someone can get injured, someone can get ill, and it all comes crashing down. And you have to deal with some interesting people as well. In darts or snooker that my dad controls, these people are generally sort of overwhelmed to even be given the opportunity. You provide the events for them, they turn up, they say thank you, they play, they get their money, and everyone moves on to the next week. So, but it doesn't have the drama in and out of the sporting arena that boxing does. So I do feel like boxing is something that it's very difficult to have longevity. And that's why, a lot of my competitors now, I mean, Bob Arum is nearly 90. He runs top rank. My dad's 71. Frank Warren, I think, is approaching 70. So I admire these people because they've been grinding all their life, and generally those people that I mentioned in one sport, in one business. For us, if we step back from boxing, we would still have a huge business, but we love boxing. It's so exciting, and it comes down to not wanting to be beaten. So when you talk about that beach moment, that means you step back, you step out, and that means you can't compete anymore. So just like an athlete who may bow out at the top of their game, they will miss the competition, and it will leave a void, in their life. And that's the same as a businessman. Our competition. So most people who work in sport are a failed athlete, right? So I'm a failed athlete. I was decent at sport, but I would have loved to have been a professional footballer or cricketer or whatever it was I played, but I was never good enough. So this is the next best thing. But when you play sport growing up, and when that's drummed into you as a kid, that's why I think sport is so important for children, because it gives you that competitive instinct. Yes, and I said in the book.
Wait, does the taking part, is that not the bit
No,
that counts?
no,
I'm
no.
joking.
I mean, but that's in the book. And I was never brought up that way. If
Yeah.
I went out and played cricket, and I come home and even my mum, my mum and dad would say to me, "How'd you get on today?" I go, "Oh, I got out for 6, but it was a great catch." They got, "Oh, come on, son, what's the matter? 6, rubbish. Come on, go and knock in a 50 tomorrow." Or it was never, "Oh, come on, Ed,
Well done for
you
taking
went
part.
out there, you took part." And I don't mind that. I'm a
What are you
parent.
like with your daughters on this?
I mean, I will say, the sports day, I'm a bit of a nightmare. It's like, sit down, and you have to win this race. You have to win this race. I feel like sometimes that the pressure can be good. Pressure creates diamonds is a great saying. And I just think you have to know what people are about. Some people can't handle pressure. Some people thrive under pressure. But it's never a bad thing to be put under pressure, because you will learn so much. If you fail, you'll learn how to deal with that situation again.
But the pressure, this is a brilliant point,
Mm,
because your whole job, career, life is pressure. From like, you're back to back to back all day. In a
mm,
normal life, you're on a plane, jetting in, jetting out,
mm,
having to be everywhere. You are documented. Everything you do is basically
mm.
documented. How do you keep cool under pressure?
That's a good question. And when we spoke off recording, although you think that secretly, I am deeper than I think I might be, I try and keep things as simple as possible. So I believe that um, in terms of sort of mental health and mindset, the best thing to do is to focus on your short-term goals or your short-term problems. I know too many people that overthink things all the time, things that might not even manifest, things that might not even exist, but they're worried about when they do, or if they do, or what happens if. I find that if I'm feeling a little bit low, or I've lost a little bit of sort of focus on what I'm doing, I will just simply write down what I need to make today a successful day. What I have to do to get back on track. So,
And
you know,
you actually do that, because this is
yeah,
like number one. This is
yeah,
amazing
but
advice.
these can be menial things. You know, they don't have to be sign this fight today or, you know, sign this TV deal. They can be go to M&S or walk the dog or go to the gym. It's the sense of fulfillment that gives you value or gives you worth, you know, to make you feel like you're making progress, that you're not sitting still. So if I write down, you know, I might go to bed and think, oh, blimey, that wasn't a very productive day, and all this and that. And I'll just write down, you know, I mean, a lot of it is work related, but, you know, a lot of it will say, you know, must send that contract, must try and do that deal, must try and make that fight, must go to the gym in the morning, walk the dog when I get in, you know, or, you know, spend some time and take the kids to the park or whatever it is. And then when you look back on your day, you go, tick, 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 tick. That was a good day. Okay, we're back. You know, that for me works. I think too many people worry about things that, you know, there's no value in worrying about till you get there. I have no problem with medium and long-term goals. But in reality, if you don't take care of the short-term problems, short-term goals, you'll never get there. It's a bit like running a marathon. You know, if you start on the line, start thinking 26 miles, Jesus Christ, like that. You know, but if you actually take it mile by mile by mile by mile, you'll break the problems down a lot easier. And I think that's, you know, a lot to be said with life in life in that respect. And I think keep things simple. You know, don't overthink things. Focus on the short-term goals. So for me, when things get on top, or you might get a little bit miserable. I mean, exercise is great. You
What
know,
do you do? What's your preferred
nothing.
exercise?
I'm never really, you know, I've run a marathon.
Very
You know,
impressive. Are
I
you a
do
runner?
run quite a bit. No, I'm like 6'5" and 16.5 stone. So like it's, you know, but my dad ran about 11 marathons, and he always took the mickey out of me and said, "You will never run a marathon." So I actually got in and done it. I run still, Peloton a couple of times a week. I don't do it, you know, I do it to try and stay healthy more than
Love
anything.
Peloton. Can we just talk?
Peloton's great.
Is
One of
that
the
the
great
best?
businesses ever.
Amazing.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Phenomenal. Um,
So that's what I think is important. But I think when, you know, but you can always, self-improvement is never ending, isn't it? You know, and I've not moved on to the meditation yet and stuff like this, but you know, this is something, anything's different that works for you. You know, what works for
challenge
me.
you on that,
Mm,
because I think meditation isn't literally sitting there
mm,
quiet, but like your meditation might be in walking the dog, or
yeah,
you might do it in another way where you switch off some of the others, like probably not being around your phone or something. It's probably
yeah.
quite meditative for you.
Mm.
Would you say you're beyond productive? Like, do you feel like you're a lazy person, or are you the opposite? Like, what is it that gets you up every, like, are you a morning person?
Probably not a morning person. I mean, I'm not massively social anymore. You know, I mean, I used to live for going out with the boys, you know, when I was 18, 19, 20, 20, or yeah, those kind of ages. And
Yeah.
actually, I think now, because life is so fast paced, I'd actually rather not go out and socialize. You know, my missus would always say, "God, you're unsociable, aren't you?" So I don't. I spend my whole day talking to people,
Yeah.
right? And you know, and if I'm not talking to people intentionally, I might be on a train going to Liverpool Street or wherever, and then I'm in a conversation with some bloke next to me who wants to know when AJ's fighting Tyson Fury, you know, and that's the
Oh,
third.
does that come up often?
Yeah, yeah, I know. So I like to be. I do like to be on my own, you know. And actually, when I'm traveling a lot, although you know that can be quite a lonely experience sometimes, I do like being in a hotel, you know, and having my own space. And actually, I'm quite a simple person in that I could actually I often say to myself, I think I could live in a hotel room. You know, I get up every morning, I just go to the office, go to work, come back, go for dinner, come back at 8 or 9, bosh, go to sleep, get up, it's cleaned again, off we go, you know. And then I don't, again, that goes back to overthinking. You know, I don't want for much. I don't feel like I go through my life saying, "Oh, I want that," and you know,
So
I want.
what's your motivator? Is it literally competition with your father, or proving something, or is it money, or is it, what is it that does it for you to get you
It's
up every
competition.
morning?
It's winning. Winning
Yeah.
is the motivation. You know, and that goes back to, you know, there's definitely, you know, when I wrote the book, I wrote in lockdown. It was quite sort of nice, sort of self healing experience where you look back over your life and you realize why you end up with a mindset you do, you know, and that evolves over time. So for me, it was growing up being Barry Hearn's son, everywhere I went, oh, it's Barry's boy, it's Barry's boy. I mean, I know most people didn't know my name, but listen, I was extremely lucky, My dad's from Dagenham. He made a lot of money. I had a great upbringing, because of his success, but I was always in the shadows. So, and at the time, I didn't care. I loved, I couldn't tell people fast enough that I was Barry Hearn's son.
Oh,
Back
right. So it wasn't at the time
Oh,
your
no, I
dad
loved it. No, I
hard.
loved it. I mean, I was going to the shows all over the world, and it was almost like a welcoming conversation. Hi, yeah, I'm Barry Hearn's son. Yeah, yeah, the boxing, that's me. Yeah, that's my dad. And I was horrible at 14. I mean, I look back now thinking, oh, that I'd love to give myself a clip round the ear, So, but actually, as time went on, going back to Frank Lampard, he went to my school, I went to his school, and he was in the year above me. And he was always Frank Lampard's son because his dad played for West Ham. And, and when he got into West Ham at 17, everyone ridiculed him. I mean, even at school, because he was a good player, but you never watched him at school and think, wow, this kid's going to go on and play in the Premier League or Champions League. But he worked hard. His dad was always over the pitch with him after school, doing his shuttle runs.
Okay.
But when he got into West Ham, he was a bit chubby at the time, wasn't he? Remember? And everyone said, "Oh, he's got in because
I'm a
Harry
Chelsea fan,
Redknapp."
so I
Yeah,
know.
yeah. Harry Redknapp's his uncle, and it's ridiculous. And Harry took a lot of stick. He went on, Frank Lampard, to be one of the greatest England players ever. One of the best Premiership players ever. And he's actually, quite a big inspiration for me because he was never gifted with speed or immense power, or he worked on the things that he had, and he improved on the things that he didn't have, but his mindset enabled him to achieve what he's achieved. So again, I sort of I look
what, graft and win. What is
but the will to win, and I think a lot of it was proving people wrong. A lot of it was a similar mindset that I had, which was, okay, if I just it's quite easy for me. I mean, whenever I do something, people will always say, yeah, but blimey, you did have a good start, didn't you? You Barry Hearn's son. Yeah. And that's 100% right. You have to play the hand that you're dealt. I was dealt a good hand. But the difficulty for me was to take what he had achieved to levels beyond where he'd achieved. And that was the only way that I could be deemed to be a success. If I went into the family business, if we just carried on doing what we're doing, that was it. You're going to do that, Eddie, aren't you? Dad's built that, and you've got these Sky deals, and okay, so how do we change the face of boxing? How do we expand globally? How do we, quadruple whatever our turnover? These are the targets that I set ourselves. But really, what we do, even to this day, me and my dad, is competition. So we will sit down and plan the year financially at the start of the year, and he'll say, well, darts, I want to hit this number, boxing, I want to hit, and doesn't matter if it's 1 million or 100 million. That's the number, and you have to beat it. And that comes back to sport again, So of course you want to beat your opposition, you want to beat your competitors, and that again goes back to sport. But
so even though you work together, you're really each other's biggest
really? Yeah, because he has nothing to do with boxing, and I have nothing to do at the moment really with snooker. So I will tell him, this is our numbers this year. Let me see snooker. But he's my best mate.
Your dad, and working with your dad, keeps you living in the moment as well. It probably fuels and keeps, you're quite lucky and privileged to spend all this time, but it not be in a kind of going around to visit my dad for a cup of tea. It's you get to be working, energized, pumped together.
Living in the moment, which I know is what the podcast based on. But it has to come from enjoyment and a passion and fulfillment, and everything. All these topics of conversation always come back to a passion for what you do.
What was your passion going when you were was this always the passion, winning ultimately? Didn't matter in what.
Yeah, the passion was. I mean, I was, at sport, I was a bad loser, really. And I accepted defeat, but I always wanted to win, and normally by any means necessary. That was the kind of attitude that, cheating wasn't really up there, but whatever it took, to win is what we had to do. And I don't know, I love to see. We're inspired by so many things at the business. Our head office is my old house where I grew up. So the business means a lot to us. My dad worked for years and years to establish that business, and I feel a obligation to keep the legacy moving and to take it to another levels. And I bounce off the buzz that he gets to see me doing that. I know that he's proud, proud of, he worked in boxing, he sees me now, and even probably the people that he was competing with 30 years ago. And he's sort of going, God, smash him up, but he's an inspirational character because he, and I said in the book as well, and he takes the mick out of me for saying this, is I'm jealous that he came from nothing, right, and gets to feel probably a different way about things that I get to feel. And he says, oh, shut up. You wouldn't want to come from where I come from. And I said, no, maybe not. But I never got the chance to make it from nothing. So this comes back to play the hand you dealt. But I know, sometimes I'll be walking around in the garden with him around his house. And I see him just, he loves land, right? And he'll buy some fields and he'll just look over the field as if to say, I can't believe, as if to say, if you knew where I come from, you wouldn't believe this. And that's a highly inspirational story. I never got the chance to do that. Maybe I could have made, maybe I can't. But again,
yourself around, haven't you?
Yeah, I mean, but it's all levels, isn't it? It's levels. So, if he's gone up 5 levels, so have I. But I just started at level 5. That's the difference. So
no, but sorry, you started off life as a spoilt, cocky little kid.
Yeah.
And you flipped it. You've worked on yourself to be like hardworking, humble, and grafting, not just accepting what was dealt to you. So I think it's a different type of.
It is. It's a different type of success and fulfillment. I mean, often I've got 2 daughters, 11 and 8, and we're doing a bit of homeschooling at the moment, and I just
really do you do a lot of that?
I try. My temper is not the best, when I'm just normally it lasts about 45 minutes, and my wife says to me, just go to work, just go.
Yeah, thank you, bye.
Okay, I'll take that. You know what I mean? So, but for me, it's I was, and it was difficult in the upbringing that I had not to be flash and cocky, to be honest with you. Like I wasn't a bad kid, but I was cocky, I was full of myself, and because of the environment that I lived in. So that for me is the most important thing as a parent, is to make sure that, yes, academically I would love you to do well, but just to have that respect and manners and and it's difficult with 2 daughters because at the same time you work so hard. Would be the same if I had a son, but you want to spoil them. And that's what my dad was like with me. He wanted to make sure that I had manners and integrity, but he's made this money. Yeah. He's achieved it, and he wants you to share in that success. So, and that's nice. And family for us is very important. So, it's a unique family. It is,
I heard in an interview you said, the interviewer, I won't say who, riled me because he said, and what happens afterwards with Matchroom, because, i.e. you don't have a son to pass it on to. Now, I'm fully aware that, it's not necessarily right now. And I'm not like, obviously I'm a feminist, but I'm not saying like, but, is there even a discussion, a thought, an interest from your daughters, or is it just?
I got in trouble the other day with my wife and my sister because what I said is that I wouldn't want my daughters to take over the family business. And I said, if I had a son, I would probably push him to take over the family. This didn't go down well. And
I can imagine.
But let me explain what I meant.
Please do.
I don't, the responsibilities that I felt to do it, I don't want them to have. I want them to find their own passion. And for me, this is what I was always destined to do, right? From an early age, my dad would say, one day, son, you'll be running this and, get ready for this. And, this is probably when he started with his mate, this is a mobile, son. You'll have one of these mobile phones. This is a fax machine, son. And this is what it was like,
Like your mobile phone.
Yeah, I would sit in his study and I would listen to him row and argue for hours because I was waiting for him to give me a game of table tennis or, whatever it was growing up. So what I meant by that when I said it was, I want them to find their own passion. I don't want them to feel like this is what I have to do, because I believe they can do anything. And I also know the pressures of what it brings. And the
Yeah.
pressure of family business is actually very different to, the you live and you breathe it. And I can't imagine, yes, as a business owner, but it's different, when
But why
there's.
would they not handle the pressure and your son
I'm
would?
not saying they wouldn't. I don't want them to, I want them to be happy. I want them to be free. But probably because, and it's not boy or girl, it's just that I know how I was treated as the son, to the heir to the throne. That was how it was. And I would probably have that, but I never got it. It wasn't, there was no choice. It was just, this is what you will end up doing.
Mm.
And for them, I want to see if they can be athletes. I want to see if they could, be actresses, or, whatever there was that they loved, and not feel like, yeah, but I kind of got to do this, haven't I?
I bet one
Yeah,
of them will love promoting and want
probably.
to be
Yeah,
the
yeah,
first major female promoter in
yeah.
the business.
No, I definitely don't want them working in boxing. And
Really? Why?
it doesn't go down to male or female. It's just aggravation. I don't want my girls to have tons of aggravation in their life. I want them to be happy. I want them to enjoy themselves. And the whole male female thing is more because of probably my dad's mentality towards. My sister is a shareholder of the business. I mean, she was a Premier League producer at Sky for many years. She now runs a TV production arm at Matrim, so she's massively involved in the business. But
Yeah.
she was never told, right? And my dad has that old school mentality. I mean, my mum make sure every day to this day that there's a shirt ironed on the door for him in the morning. Old East End mentality. I mean, I don't get that. You know, I, where's my bacon and eggs in the morning? But that's right, because women say no, and the world's changed massively, and rightfully so, by the way. But
Yeah.
back then, that was the mentality. It was, I go to work, you take care of the house and the kids, and when I come home, we'll have a bit of dinner, and don't forget my shirt in the morning. That's the old school East End mentality, and the world's changed a lot since then as well. And by the way, growing up as well was the same thing. Son, I found, you're next, right? That was what it was like, as in, you've
Really?
got to take over this business. Yeah, it was never Katie, because I don't know, it was just like she was very bright, and it was just like, you follow me everywhere. I was going to every boxing event, so that was just a natural progression of, following in your father's footsteps.
When your dad used to get quite, I guess, angry, and I've heard you mention, like, shouting on the phone and
Mm.
all that stuff. Do you think you have inherited that way of dealing in business, or because your persona that we see is very approachable, kind of calm, charisma, all of
Mm.
those things. Is that what you're really like, or is
Yeah,
that your deep?
I'm a lot calmer than him. I think that I will I have the ability to take a lot more to get something done. Like he'll say, sometimes we'll be in a meeting, or he'll say to me, "What's happening?" And I'll say, "Oh, God, arguing with this fighter or this manager, and he wants this, and he wants this, and he wants this," and he's like, "Tell him to." I said, "No, no, don't worry, we'll get there. We'll get. I don't know how you put up with these people. I think he would lose his temper a lot quicker, but I'm quite calm in that. I think there's always a solution, always, and if a deal makes sense to people, we'll get there, and it might take a bit of time. It will take a little bit of honesty, but if we're honest with each other and cards on the table, we can get there and we can make it work. And he's
Do you think
he's.
people
he's
want to deal with you there? Do you think people like dealing with you because you
I
are
think
honest?
there's probably a misconception. I mean, like the amount of people that I deal with who say, "Well, yeah, you're right." I mean, you have to understand, when you're not saying arrogant, but when you're top of,
Yeah.
an industry, the talk is, this guy's an arsehole. Oh God, you should, arrogant, and the amount of people we work with who say, "You know what?" It fascinates me. Say, you're actually all right. Yeah, oh, thanks, mate. And that's why I like doing the interviews. Not just this, but the boxing stuff with Coogan and IFL, because it gives you the chance to be non-corporate. When I'm doing Sky Sports News or something like that, it's like, yes, and then with Coogan or something, I might be sitting back, feet up, and having a laugh. And obviously, that's where No Context Hearn, got
Yeah.
created.
Do you like
And
that? I've read
yeah,
mixed things.
I think it's quite. I find it. I
Funny.
find it fascinating, because the guy wrote to me. This guy called Andy works for the NHS. This was like 3 years ago, and he said, "Look, I love your interviews. I'm going to start a no context Hearn page where I'm going to be putting up some of your clips and just want to let, like, are you all right with that? And I went, yeah, mate, whatever. Thinking, how big is that
How
going to be?
decent of him to approach you.
I know, but I just thought, how big is that going to be? Like, anyway, started off. I saw a few of them floating around, and it was 3,000, 10,000 followers, 50, 100, 200. And then before I know it, I'm out on, again on like the train or something like that, and it's, oh, you're the guy. Oh, I love your memes. I love your memes. Like, no, I'm actually a boxing promoter. Are you? Oh, right, yeah. So it allows you to reach a new audience.
Mm.
But a lot of people, like sometimes I'll see people retweet one, and they'll just go onto their page and they don't follow me, so they
Yeah.
don't actually know who I am or what I do. They're just laughing at, it was even like, I think Liverpool won the Premier League, and the first thing Virgil van Dijk posted was a picture of me, right, doing something like, job done, off we go, la-di-da, and a couple of beers or something like that. And I just messaged him and I said, nice one, mate. He was like, oh, you legend, Eddie. I'm thinking, what? And
So
who
good.
was on League of Their Own with not Jermaine Genius, Jesse Lingard, and he was like, "Oh, it's you! Oh, I love you!" It's like, what, the shows? No, the memes. Oh, they're unbelievable. And so you can't take yourself too.
I hope you've been nice to Andy and offered him a few.
Andy, listen, don't worry about Andy. Andy created his own merchandise range.
Oh,
He then came on and said, "Can I do some mugs and t-shirts?" And I said, "Yeah, 20% to Haven House, which is a hospice we support," which he, ended up sending him a nice few thousand. And he's doing all right, Andy. Don't worry about that. He's doing mugs and t-shirts and everything. But you can't. I think if you take yourself too seriously, like, you become quite unlikable and quite bitter, and like, and that's one thing I think you always have to be careful of, is becoming bitter, because it's easily done in a business of aggravation. Like, again, it goes back to in boxing. So many things go wrong that you can wake up with a negative mindset. It's almost like, I'll go to bed, America's happening, and then I turn on my phone in the morning and it's like, oh, this didn't happen, or so and so's out, or especially now, so and so's got COVID, or this country's shut down, this state shut down with no crowds now, the venue's not taking any bookings, and it's like,
here we go
you
again.
have to laugh. You have to just go, this is hilarious, and you just,
And is
and
that what you do?
so it's like you just have to balance out the wins and the losses every day. So it's like, oh, blimey, and then something good happens there. Right, what's next? What you got for me? Oh, what a disaster! Right, back over here. It's a game. It's a game. Life's a game. Business is a game, and you have to play it, and you have to enjoy it, and you can't take it too seriously. So I
I
think,
wanted to ask you about COVID for you.
mm,
Have you, how have you adapted? Obviously, you're like grounded, which is not normal for you because aren't you in America and all over the world all
I've
the
just come back actually. That's why it's not a
Oh,
summer.
you have
But
been
yeah,
traveling.
I've been over. I mean, we're lucky enough I mean, I was actually talking to some people at work today who are in the office, and they're like, we feel privileged that we can actually go to work, and it's a weird environment where, we really recruit at a junior level, and we let people grow through the business. A lot of our senior guys have been there since 16, 17, and we love that. We love to see people grow through the business. So a lot of the younger kids are saying, like, this is like, all my friends are at home and just working from their lounge all day, can't move, and now we're getting the opportunity to come in here. We're getting the opportunity to be at live events. So we're lucky as a sport or all elite sport is able to continue. The difficulty for us is obviously a different kind of model, less revenue coming from the gate, no crowd. We have to really change the focus of the TV product so that, we've built a sport that's based on, the razzmatazz, the crowd, the ring walks, the Sweet Caroline, the fireworks, and now we're having to do that behind closed doors. So the production's very different. And, I'm lucky in that I'm traveling probably at 5% of what I'm used to, but I have been able to get away. I've just come back from seeing various sites and places to go around America. In America, in Miami, in Florida and in Texas, they're having crowds. We had 12,000 for Canelo. We're
Yeah.
going back to Miami with and it's weird, and it's socially distanced, but it feels good.
Does it feel
Yeah, it really
weird?
does. I mean, we had 1,000 people return for
Yeah.
Anthony Joshua's fight,
Is that
and
so weird?
that felt like it was my first show, because we'd gone 6 months, 7 months with boxing behind closed doors, and then to see people back, it was amazing, you know. And yeah, and 1,000 felt like 15,000, and then 2 weeks later, bang, you know. And who knows, we may not be able to have crowds back till the summer, you know. And you just, I think again, it's another challenge.
Pause you 1 second,
Sure.
because I hear my youngest crying his eyes out.
Go on, come on, do what you got to do.
Shame,
How old is he?
he's 1.
Right.
Anyway, we'll figure this out. Whatever.
Yeah.
Work from home is how it is. That's what I wanted to
Yeah.
do earlier today without children.
Yeah.
Eddie, did you talk to Dana White and say, look, how are we going to do this? Get back. Like, you'll get an island for your fights.
Yeah.
Like, how did boxing keep up? Or were you already there
Well,
quickly?
we didn't do an island. We did my back garden, you know, for fight camp. And
Did you? You're
yeah, that was really unique. I was just sitting in the office, sort of looking outside, and thought we could do it out there. And everyone went, "What?" And I said, "Well, we need a venue, right? And we need an enclosed environment. We've got a hotel down the road. We could put people in there, create a bubble, get them tested, shuttle them up for the fight. You know, I mean, it is when you're testing probably 140 people a week. You know, you're keeping everybody in an enclosed environment in a hotel. It's just a different kind of experience. So Dana White's done a couple of trips now to a little island in Abu Dhabi, which is a great idea. We've tended to keep things local. I mean, we're promoting in the US, the UK, Italy, Spain at the moment, and things are. I think the most frustrating thing is you make progress and then they take it all away from you. So, like I said, you come back with 1,000 for AJ, and then all of a sudden, no crowds. You know, but when we had 1,000, I'm thinking, do you know what? In January, February, I think we'll get 2,000 or 3,000, and then by March we might be at 8 or 9, and etc. So again, it comes down to not taking yourself too seriously and just laughing and enjoying it, because nothing really matters. Nothing really matters. You know, what matters is that you're happy and you enjoy what you do. So all this other stuff, good days, bad days, but you just can't take it too
Is that
seriously.
your kind of message, do you think?
My
Just
message is keep things simple. Keep things simple. And I think that, generally making sure that you can look yourself in the mirror and feel comfortable with yourself. I mean, it takes people a long time to get that feeling in life, but that's probably, you're right there. that's probably, go on, you do it.
Sorry.
Is that your second one?
Yeah. Come here.
Yeah. How old's the other one?
4.
Oh, wow.
So he should
My-
be fine. Anyway,
my-
he's fine now. He's on. Chill.
My sister's son's 4. Twins. Yeah.
I need
So
to.
yeah, my message is really just don't take yourself too seriously. Just enjoy what you do. Try and find a passion for what you do. I think there's a lot of people who are in jobs or careers that don't really want to be in those positions, and I think that for me makes me realize how lucky I am, because I see a lot of people go out, getting a job, sit at their desk and just clock watch what time I've got, and leave. And then, but at the same time, a little bit envious of those people, because once 5 o'clock comes, gone. That once my end of day comes, I can't stop thinking about the day or what I've got to do tomorrow. And it's never a switch off moment. No, never.
Does your family life suffer?
Yeah, my dad was when we was away, I think whenever it was, August or something like that, and he said, turn your phone off. I said, I can't turn my phone off. He's like, well, shut up. What? I said, no. And I was on the phone all the time, but it's the obligation. It's what comes with it. You can't have it both ways. You can't win. You can't be the best at what you do if you don't make sacrifices. And my sacrifice sometimes, unfortunately, is having to be an unsociable git and leave the table for the whole of dinner and make a conference call or try and make a deal. But just like an athlete might have to make sacrifices, this is the sacrifices that everybody in their field has to make to be at the top of what they do. That you don't just win because you're decent at what you do. You win because you work harder than anyone else. You're prepared to make more sacrifices, and you're prepared to go the extra mile. And that's the difference. But without those sacrifices, you ain't going to win.
It's a good message. Sorry, kid.
Listen to this, son. Listen
If
to
I
this,
want to succeed at this, you're going to have to go to bed.
son.
Well, Eddie, I think I've taken up far too much of your time. But before I go, the last thing I like to ask people, if you can think of something, is do you have a quote or a motto or a saying that you live by? Like, what's the kind of phrase in your head that you're like,
Well,
that keeps you going?
there's a few.
Oh, great.
And in a sales sense, in a business sense, one is always leave a little bit of bread in the fish's mouth, right? Which means don't be too greedy. Greed is a killer. So one thing I haven't talked about. Once you become too greedy, once you start, wanting too much control, you become unlikable, and you become a bitter person. The next one is, which is a no context term, which is on a mug, which is don't let the bastards get you down. Right, it's a straightforward one. And the one that I love more than anything is Warren Buffett, who said, when the tide goes out, you get to see who's swimming naked. And what that means is when things get tough, you get to really see, what people are made of. And sometimes, things get tough if you don't have a good business. And COVID's a great example of that, because people who didn't have a solid business, people that weren't doing things right, people that didn't have the right fundamentals are now getting found out. So they're the people that were swimming naked. People who ran a great business come out with the yellow Speedos on. So, everyone's a winner.
Swimming naked. Thank you, Eddie.
No worries. Sorry it was a bit late today.